Okay, we're going to be doing some homework prep for Mounce Chapter 10. We're in the workbook here for the Chapter 10 homework, and I'm under parsing. So if you want to grab your workbook, and we'll do some of these together. So the first one we see here is number 1. I'll zoom in here. Sarki. Dealing with the photograph here, it's not super clear, but you can see Sarki. Well, what we want to do is we want to remember, okay, if I did my memorization work, that sark is the root. And because it's a stem that ends in a consonant, there's our kappa, it is then necessarily what we call a third declension noun. It's a third declension. And what we learned then is with a third declension noun, the iota from the dative singular does not subscript. Remember, like if I have, let's say, in the second declension noun, if I have logos, for example, and I want the dative singular, I get logo like that, right? I get the iota subscript. That's my dative singular to a word. If I have, let's say, a first declension noun like graphe, right? And I want to say, to a writing or for a writing, something like that, I'm going to say graphe, and I'm going to have a iota subscript. And even if I add the definite article, te graphe, for the written thing, or to the written thing, or to the writing. Well, in a third declension, the iota does not subscript. So it's the same iota. It's functioning the same way. This little guy right there is. But it won't subscript because we have the strength of that consonantal ending. And so that's what we're looking at here. The case is dative. The number is singular. And the gender, sark. Sark, we need to know what the gender is. And the gender, this is again, we would need to use our vocab memorization because there's nothing in it that we would know in and of itself. The gender is feminine, sark. And sark, the lexical form, of course, is sigma, alpha, rho, xi. Why the xi? Because the xi is the product of sark, which is our root, plus the sigma. And remember, Greek doesn't like ks. When I get that ks together, what happens? They both lose out, and we get the x. We get the xi letter that we see right here. Now we still hear the K, the kappa sound, and the sigma sound, both are preserved in the pronunciation. We still hear the k and the s, x, but it's represented in Greek with a new letter, xi. So our lexical form then is sarks, like that, with the xi. Xi is it's almost like a spring. You start high, you do 2 loops, and then you have to turn and go back the other way. So 2 loops and turn and go back the other way. It's kind of a fun, springy word. Now that takes us to the far right column, the inflected meaning, and that is of sarki. That was our word, sarki. So you could say 2 flesh, doesn't really make much sense. 4 flesh. Now if you wanted to add a preposition just for your own practice, n, you could say n, sarki, right? N plus a dative means in. So you could say in flesh, something like that. So there you go. That's sufficient for this one. So we have sarki, dative singular, feminine. Tinos. Let's do another one. This is an interesting guy here. Tinos. I'm going to erase my other notes. Tinos, this is also from chapter 10. It is the interrogative pronoun, tinos. And it means, it's from the root tin, like this. But the nominative singular is tis, like that. Because remember, when we have the root tin plus the sigma, remember with sark, we had sark plus a sigma gives us sarks. Well, a sigma wipes out the nu, and we just get tis, like that. And it's the interrogative pronoun, meaning who. But here we have tinos. Well, if we've done some work in our chapter 10, we know that the os ending is our genitive singular. Genitive singular. Tinos, who, or of whom. Now, this could be actually masculine or feminine, because it's the pronoun covers both genders. Tinos. So our lexical form is going to be tis, like that. And one thing to remember, if the iota with the accent is always going to be our interrogative pronoun. And that's going to be differentiated from our what do we call it? Our undefined pronoun, our indefinite pronoun, someone. It would be spelled the same way, but we wouldn't see the accent on the iota. And I think of it, funny though, I think of that accented iota as an upside down question mark. And that's how I remember. It's kind of a funny little way to remember that whether that word is functioning as an interrogative pronoun or an indefinite pronoun. Okay, so then we get back to here, and we have to do our inflected meaning of tinos, and it's going to be of whom. It's still going to be a question. Of whom? Because we have to somehow capture that that possessive in the genitive and the interrogative together. Okay, enough with parsing. Let's move on here to some warm-up. Number alpha. To onomatimu. To onomatimu. Well, what do we notice here? We see an omega with a iota subscript, and we see a noun that ends in a iota. So the chances are, and they're back to back, these go together and they're the same case. Well, if you know your definite article work, you know this is a dative singular, isn't it? Dative singular. And then we have onomati. Onomati. What we learn in chapter 10 is the mat stems. So that's what we see here. Mem, alpha, tau. The mat stems, we have like a pneuma, right? Onoma, like the word for pneuma is the word for spirit. Onoma is the word for name. So these are what we call, or soma, right, for body. These are mat stems. Now in the nominative, the tau drops off. That's why we have pneuma and onoma and soma. We don't hear the tau in the nominative, but it appears in almost all the other places. So onomati is our dative singular, just like remember when we saw sarki before? And we see that iota here at the end. It does not subscript in the third declension. Well, with our mat stems, same thing. The iota does not subscript. So onomati is dative singular also. So these guys belong together. To onomati. One thing we haven't determined yet is the gender, because to is our second declension, right? Dative, singular, but is it masculine or is it neuter? Well, this is where vocab work helps. If I know that onoma is neuter, then I know that the definite article here is neuter also. So yeah, it's actually neuter. To onomati, so to or for a name. So you could say to, for, I should say the name, because we have definite article so far. To onomati mu, but then I have my mu. This is my genitive of ego. Ego is I, but in the genitive it's mu, of me, or mine, of me. Then, so I would say the name of me. To or for the name of me. But guess what? That just doesn't make good English, does it? So we can go ahead and you can strike the definite article and recognize that it's in English, it's definite just by virtue of saying mine. So we would say to, well, and even the next final step, then I will go to purple, would be to or for my name. That's going to be the simplest English rendering. To or for my name. Okay. So to onomatimu, to or for my name. Shall we do another one? Let's do another one. Normally I just do one, but let's do another. Let me get a little finer point on my nib. Okay. Now remember, in the warm-ups, these are not complete sentences. So we got number beta here. Let's start here. I'll just underline as we go. Tein agapein, tein espantas tus hagius. Tein agapein, tein espantos tus hagius. Well, this is quite a complex phrase, isn't it? Well, one thing we might recognize is that we're getting a repetition of the definite article. Tein, tein. So that's what we want to start with. That's something that we've seen. Maybe it's not so much in the fog anymore. Tein, tein. What is that? Well, first of all, let's just, here, let me erase my other note here. What do we know about tein? Well, tein is the feminine, well, I'll say it's the accusative, singular, feminine, definite article, the. So it means the. But it's in the accusative, singular, feminine form. And then when we see it in this situation, we're going to be suspicious of an adjective, or an adjectival construct of some sort. So now that we've identified our definite article and an anticipation of an adjectival phrase, we have tein agapein. Well, we notice the endings match, tein agapein. So what's agape? You remember what agape is? That's our noun for love. The love. So now, the love. But then I have to deal with this doubled definite article, the repetition here. So the love. Now, if I had like something like agathein, tein agapein, tein agathein, I would be, oh, the good, the love, the good love. But look, I'm expecting some sort of adjective here. But what we're seeing here is not an adjective like, agathein, for example. That would, if I say tein agapein, tein agathein, that would be the good love, right? The good love. I'm using a what we call our second attributive position to communicate that, the meaning of the adjective, to modify the noun love. But here I'm getting a prepositional phrase as the modifier. So when it's an adjectival phrase, it's to be specific, it's a prepositional phrase functioning adjectively as a whole. So, and we know it's a prepositional phrase because we see ace plus something. And if you remember the word ace, this is it's a preposition that takes an accusative. And it can mean to or toward or unto. It has some flexibility there. So ace plus an accusative. Well, what comes after that? Pantas tous hagios. Pantas tous hagios. Well, again, we're going to need to rely on some vocab work, but chapter 10, pantas, is from the paradigm of pas, pasapan. And we know that because it's a 3-1-3, so it's third declension for the masculine, first declension for the feminine, third declension for the neuter. Pas, pasapan. And here, because we have pant, we know it's either first or second, either it's masculine or neuter, because it can't be a first declension, because first declension doesn't have the nt at all. We use pas instead, pasa. So pantas then leaves us with, well, what is this ending here? And what we learn is this is the accusative plural. It's the masculine accusative plural. Pantas. All. And it means all. So ace pantas then means to all. To all. But we're not done there yet because we have a noun here. Well, we have another use of an adjective functioning substantively. Tous hagios. Here we have another, if we remember our definite article, tous, there can only be one thing. That's masculine, plural, accusative. So it's going to be the, and then I'm expecting a noun that matches it. Tous hagios, to the saints, the holy ones. So remember, hagios is a adjective. It's an adjective, but it's functioning here substantively. The holy ones, the saints. The love which is. So then in this kind of situation where we have the doubled definite article, what we call a second attributive position, but instead of an adjective, we're getting this phrase. Let me grab a different color. Instead of an adjective, we're getting a prepositional phrase functioning adjectively. So we're going to say the love, and I'm happy if you say which is for all the saints, the love for all the saints. There's some things like this. And remember, this is not a complete sentence. It's not meant to be. This is just a warm-up. There's no verb, there's no subject here. It's just a phrase. The love that or which is to all the saints. There you go. Okay, now we're going to finally go to our translation, and we're just going to do one here, and then we'll wrap it up. Now, this is actually a complete sentence. When we do our translation work, it's a complete sentence. Now, let's just look at our verb first. Remember, because we haven't done verbs yet, we're getting these glosses that Dr. Mounce is supplying. They are going erchontai. Remember the he verb here, or letter, erchontai. This is from a word called erchomai, which we haven't learned yet. And it means I am going or I am coming. But here it's third person plural. Erchontai, they are going. So we'll just bracket that out and we'll just look at pantis. Pantis. Well, we saw earlier, we saw pantas, right? So it looks the same, doesn't it? Pant is our root, but we never just see it by itself like that. The actual lexical form, we get all three. We get pas, that's our nominative singular in the masculine. Pasa, it's our feminine nominative singular. And then pan is our neuter. So you want to remember, pas, pasa, pan. But remember, it's a 3-1-3. So when we do the masculine and the neuter, we're going to see pant a lot. Pantos, panti, panta. And then in the plural, pantes. Remember our if I just do the masculine plural is pantes. What is the neuter plural? Panta. Panta. So there's only one candidate here. Because remember, panta occurs 3 times. It could be accusative singular in the masculine, or it could be a nominative plural in the neuter, or an accusative plural in the neuter. It's always panta, those 3 times. But pantes, only 1 time, and that is our nominative masculine plural. Pantes. And what do we know about nominative? Well, if it's nominative, then it is the subject. All. So how are we going to translate it? All they are going. Well, they is plural, so we know all are going. All are going. Now, pantes, there's no noun that it's modifying present here. So this is substantival. Substantival adjective. All what? All the people, something like that. Or all the crowd is implied. But you can just say all. All are going, and then we have prosauton. Prosauton. Well, pros, if we remember our vocab, pros is a preposition meaning to or toward. It takes an accusative, and sure enough, auton. What's our nominative form of auton is autos, right? Autos, oops, of him would be autou, right? To him or for him would be auto, right, with the dative. But the accusative, auton, like that. And that's what we're looking at here, auton, prosauton, to him. All are going unto him. Probably Yeshua, we can capitalize that. Or to, you can just say to him. And you don't have to capitalize it either. You could be talking about John the Baptist. All are going to him. There you go. We're seeing a lot of things at work here. Even though the sentence itself is very simple, we're seeing substantival adjective. We're seeing in our warm-ups, we saw the second attributed position in number beta here. So a lot of it takes some work, and you're exercising some new muscles as you do this. So have some intense focus time, then take a break, then come back and focus some more, and take a break, and be sure to celebrate your victories, because that's important. All right, stick with it. Stick with it. You will make progress, and you'll be thrilled with your progress. So don't give up. Shalom.